What if the reason you keep getting stuck in the jet bridge, watching everyone else walk past you like you're invisible, has nothing to do with your ticket price, your airline status, or even your boarding pass, but instead has everything to do with a quiet airport rule change happening again in 2026 that nobody at the gate is explaining out loud? Imagine this for a second. You're standing there, coffee half finished, backpack on one shoulder, phone buzzing with boarding alerts, and the screen flashes, now boarding zone 4. But something feels off because the people stepping forward don't look like zone 4 travelers at all. And suddenly the line is moving weird. The gate agent is waving people through faster than usual. And that familiar airport stress creeps in because you realize the system you thought you understood has changed again. And this isn't just a small tweak. This is airlines rewriting how boarding zones actually work in real life. Not on paper, not in those tiny charts buried deep in airline apps, but right there at the gate where confusion costs time, space, and patience. And here's the part nobody is saying clearly: 2026 boarding zones aren't about fairness anymore. They're about control, flow, and behavior. Airlines watched passengers for years, studied how people move, who blocks aisles, who ignores announcements, who shoves bags overhead, who hesitates, who freezes when scanners beep, and now boarding zones are being redesigned like psychological traffic systems meant to quietly push you where they want you without you realizing it. Because airlines learned something uncomfortable. Passengers don't listen, they react. So instead of explaining changes, they're embedding them into the process itself, meaning your boarding zone in 2026 may look familiar but behave completely different. And if you're not paying attention, you'll feel punished without knowing why. Because zones are no longer strictly tied to seat location, loyalty status, or fare class the way they used to be. Instead, they're becoming dynamic. Meaning the same seat could board earlier or later, depending on aircraft type, carry-on volume, destination regulations, even the weather, yes weather, because airports now calculate boarding congestion using predictive models that factor in delays, tight connections, and passenger behavior patterns from previous flights. And here, where it gets interesting. Some travelers will quietly board earlier without being called, while others will be delayed even when their zone is announced. Because airlines are testing soft holds, which means the scanner accepts your pass, but the agent slows you down intentionally, creating invisible spacing in the aisle, and you'll never be told this is happening. You'll just feel like the process is oddly slower or faster than usual. And this change didn't come from nowhere. It came from years of chaos, viral boarding videos, overhead bin wars, arguments at gates. Flight attendants filing reports saying the boarding system was the single biggest cause of in-flight tension before wheels even left the ground. So airlines went back to the drawing board, not to make boarding nicer, but quieter, smoother, less explosive, especially on full flights where one bad moment can delay departure by 20 minutes. And that's expensive, very expensive. So starting in 2026, boarding zones are being relabeled, regrouped, and sometimes intentionally misaligned with seat rows, meaning Zone 3 might include a mix of window seats from the back, aisle seats from the middle, and travelers with no carry-ons at all. Because airlines realized bags, not people, slow boarding, and if they can reduce overhead bin competition early, the entire process speeds up, even if it feels unfair to you personally. And yes, loyalty members will still board early, but not always first, because airlines notice something else. Elite travelers carry more bags, take longer to settle, and block aisles while reorganizing. So on certain routes, airlines are quietly testing letting lighter travelers go first, even if they paid less. And that's a shock to the old system, but it works. And that's why it's happening again, because the last boarding update didn't fully solve the problem, it just changed who complained the loudest. And now airlines are less concerned about complaints and more focused on on-time metrics, which affect contracts, airport slots, and federal reporting. So your boarding experience in 2026 is less about customer service and more about data, algorithms, and silent adjustments. And the wild part is you won't see an announcement saying boarding zones have changed. You'll just feel it. You'll notice fewer clear lines, more general crowd movement, gate agents calling zones faster but enforcing them selectively, scanners beeping differently, sometimes approving you, sometimes flashing yellow instead of green, which means wait, even though you're technically allowed. And that moment of hesitation is intentional, because hesitation spreads spacing, and spacing prevents aisle jams, and aisle jams cause delays, And delays cost money, and airlines care deeply about money, not confusion. So if you feel confused, that's acceptable collateral damage, and travelers over 50 are noticing this more than anyone. Because you remember when boarding was simple, first class, then the back rows, then everyone else. But simplicity doesn't scale in modern airports with packed flights, tight turnarounds, and passengers bringing their entire life on board in a rolling bag. So the system evolved, quietly, and it will keep evolving. And here's something most YouTube videos won't tell you. The boarding zone printed on your pass in 2026 may change after you arrive at the gate, without notification. Because airlines are testing real-time zone reassignment based on how many people actually show up, meaning missed connections, no-shows, and last-minute upgrades reshuffle zones automatically. And if you refresh your boarding pass at the wrong time, you might unknowingly move backward or forward. And that's why some travelers swear they were pushed back a zone, while others think they got lucky. But it's not luck, it's software, and software doesn't care about your feelings. And the biggest mistake travelers will make in 2026 is assuming boarding zones mean the same thing they meant in 2024 or 2025. Because they don't, not anymore. Zones are now flexible crowd management tools, not strict order numbers. And if you understand that, you can travel calmer, smoother, smarter, because you won't take it personally when someone boards before you. You won't rush the gate the second your zone is called. You won't argue with agents who didn't design the system, and you'll notice something subtle: flights actually leaving on time more often. Less shouting, fewer bin battles, less gate drama, and that's the goal, even if it feels weird at first, even if it feels unfair sometimes, even if no one explains it clearly. Because airlines believe passengers adapt faster through experience than explanation, and by the end of 2026, this new boarding reality will feel normal. And people won't even remember how it used to work. They'll just remember that flying feels slightly less chaotic than it once did. And that's the real story behind why airport boarding zones are changing again, not because airlines want to confuse you, but because they want to quietly control the chaos without ever saying that out loud.